Welcome to the Art Life Mind podcast, exploring where science, creativity, and spirituality meet. I'm your host, Tim Behrens. In each episode, we dive into conversations with practitioners, healers, and thinkers who are reimagining how we grow, create, and transform. I'm excited to get started. Let's dive in.
Your candle shines so bright there in the darkness, a spark of hope that sings my weary song. Oh, your love can be the light when things are spinning in the night. Knowing you are close, it makes me strong. If you shine the way, I'll follow you along. Your river winds its way through the...
So welcome to this first episode of Art Life Mind. I'm Tim Behrens, and I thought I would start just by sharing a little bit about what I hope for this podcast, what I hope it becomes. In my own life, I have a lot of labels that I might identify with, and I'm going to be bringing those into this podcast. I am a hypnotherapist, an artist, a musician, a writer, a podcaster, authentic relating facilitator. And at the heart of all of those, I really find what I love is creative process. And I've always been curious about how we grow, heal, and create meaning in our lives. And for me, science, art, and spirituality aren't separate worlds. They're threads of the same tapestry. Science gives us that framework to understand how our mind works. Art is that expression and process where we process what words can't capture. We give them life in some way, bringing the abstract into the world and rooting it in with a brushstroke or a song or a writing or even just an authentic expression. And spirituality gives us that sense of connection to ourselves, to each other, to something larger than us. So it's really my hope that all of these threads can come together, and in each episode I'm going to be talking with wonderful people from my life who are working at these intersections, practitioners, healers, thinkers who are all reimagining what transformation can look like. Now, if I lean into the spiritual end of things, I want to say that I am living in a time, we are all living in a time, where things are really shifting. I think there's a lot of uncertainty about what comes next, but what is certain or becoming clearer is that the old ways are no longer working in the ways that we had hoped. There are a lot of people right now that are seeking and searching, trying to find joy and meaning in their lives, and they're finding that the systems that we're working and living in are no longer bringing that sense of security, of comfort, of fulfillment, of connection. And it is my hope that together as a community that we can really start to explore what connection looks like moving forward, what meaning looks like moving forward. Now, as an authentic relating facilitator, one thing I've learned is how vulnerable it can be to really be seen, to really share your story. I have all of these masks that I've worn through the years, and when I stopped wearing the masks, what I found is that they were there to keep me safe. If I tell you a story that I'm not fully related to, or that doesn't sit in my heart space, it's a little bit less of a disappointment if I find rejection or criticism or ridicule from it. But if I tell you something that goes down to my core, and I find that rejection or ridicule, which doesn't very often happen, but the fear is there, as I'm sure all of you know, then it becomes far more impactful. And so when I define authenticity, it's that idea of bringing congruence between what's happening internally in our inner world, giving that voice and making it congruent with how we are expressing and what we are saying in the outer world. And so I think there's a misnomer sometimes about authenticity too, that it means bearing your soul, but really in any given moment, if someone is inwardly feeling that they aren't safe or comfortable expressing something, if they give that voice and say that, I'm not comfortable expressing something, that is an authentic expression. And so for me, this podcast is going to be a journey in finding that balance, really learning how to be more authentic, share more of my journey, share more of what I'm doing with hypnotherapy, with art, with writing, introducing you to some of the wonderful people and teachers that are in my community, and hoping that in doing so that we can collectively find tools, insights, maybe even a little inspiration for the journey. And so where do I start? I remember reading somewhere that for writers, one of the hardest things to do is really to figure out how to start your story. So sometimes what they'll do is jump right into the middle and then figure it out from there. And so I might do that just a little bit, but what comes to mind in sharing my journey is that I was in IT for about 15 years, maybe closer to 16 or 17. Time doesn't mean much these days. But around 2018, and this may be a story that I'll share more of as we go, but in 2018 I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. Now, I didn't have a name for that. I didn't have the word. I didn't have a belief about it. It's just something that very magically and synchronistically happened to me. And it was not an easy process. If you were to read about that term, you would find that if someone has that happen spontaneously, that it can be very uncomfortable. It can create physical ailments, sickness, confusion, mental health issues. And I would say that all of that happened to me. Now, if I had had a meditation practice or I had been a yogi, I might have been working to release that energy, but it just came alive in me, and suddenly my world shifted. And the things that used to matter no longer resonated anymore. I knew that what was important in my life was connection, understanding that undercurrent of meaning that flows through our life, trying to find a job and a career that was more aligned with my creative pursuits, art and music and spirituality, that none of those really lived in my previous world in the way that I really wanted them to. So it was this dark night of the soul that pushed me into all sorts of change. And my life really did change. A lot of things fell away. And I found myself going through a divorce in 2019, getting settled in a new place right as COVID hit, discovering authentic relating practices, traveling and meeting new people, becoming involved with a spiritual community out of Denver and becoming a moderator for them, something I never thought I would do. And somewhere in the midst of that, I discovered hypnotherapy, and I went to school for it. A year-long program, 900 hours worth of coursework, left a job and invested entirely in this practice and trying to get this new life off the ground. And that's where I'm at today, and I want to talk vulnerably about that because I think there is a lot of misinformation out there as everyone is trying to present themselves in a way that is going to set them up for success. But in doing so, they don't talk about how hard the journey of an entrepreneur is. They don't talk about all of the failures that have to happen. You know, there's a term, there's no failure, there's only feedback. And I do believe this to be true, but also I know in my own world there are so many practitioners who are trying to live this aligned life, to become healers, to become artists and creators. And it is a very difficult journey. And one thing I know is that it's even more difficult to do it alone. And so it is really my hope to be able to have conversations with others who are on this path, to talk about the world we're living in, to talk about the time we're living in, to talk about these shifts that we are all going through where we see these old systems falling away. We all feel something new is coming to take its place, but we don't know what that is. We don't know what it looks like. We can't sit around waiting for it to happen. We have to pay our bills and keep a roof over our head and continue to provide for our families and be in community. And so it's a really interesting place to be. And that's why this podcast is coming about, because I want to share my journey with you. And to the best I am able, I promise that I will do it vulnerably, honestly. And I'm excited to share some of the tools that I've learned along the way. Just ending a little bit here with hypnotherapy, my current focus and journey. I have really come to learn how our subconscious mind at every level intends to keep us safe. It's not concerned so much with our happiness or our joy as it is with our survival. So if we have been living in a routine that has helped us to survive, when we try and step into the unknown, into new territory, our subconscious will tell us that we are being dangerous in some way or another. And so there will always be some level of discomfort when someone tries to step into something new. And then the question becomes, what kinds of tools can we use to become more comfortable with our discomfort, to be more resourced in our nervous system, to be able to hold space for the things that we would call in? And that really is a journey, and I'm excited to share some tools about that as well. So even as I end this, I recognize that I have just been stream of conscious sharing, and part of me is like, will this be my first episode, or will I record something else and post later? And we shall see. But in the process of transparency and vulnerability, I imagine that this will be it. And one thing that I also want to share just in closing is that I'm going to share some art and music and things here. And so that title song that you heard tonight is a song I wrote called The Light Song. And it is a demo or a rendition that was done with AI assistance, something I have mixed feelings about, but also am finding to be a wonderfully creative tool. And I want to talk about that, the intersect of technology and creativity. How do we stay aligned, in tune, in integrity with our own creative process while still being able to utilize some of these technologies that are out there? And how do we do that with respect to other makers and creators? And so I'm going to end with that full version of that song. It is my lyrics. It is my melody, my chords. What I did is recorded a very simple version of it with my voice and a ukulele, and what you hear is how it was extrapolated. And I am really having a wonderful time with it. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope that can be part of the discussion moving forward, because there are certainly pros and cons to everything that's going on in the world and with technology right now. And I do want to have that conversation and that discussion, while at the same time being able to explore and create. And I look forward to next time. Thank you for listening to Art Life Mind. To contact me, you can reach me at artlifemind@gmail.com. I'm Tim Behrens, and hope to see you next time.
Your candle shines so bright there in the darkness, a spark of hope that sings my weary song. Oh, your love can be the light when things are spinning in the night. Knowing you are close, it makes me strong. If you shine the way, I'll follow you along. Your river winds its way through the forest to mountains painted distant on the sky. I long to follow you to clearer pastures under blue, find answers in the knowing of your eyes. If you want promise that I'll try. A window to this other world. I watch the clouds roll by. How hard I try to find you now. Your sunshine parts the clouds, soft and gentle. Spring breeze can weave us gold from sullen gray. I have traveled through your seasons, found myself in the fall. Like sunset, I watched you slip away.